Now, I'm pretty excited for this next panel as the chairs arrive on stage because I get to hand over my hosting duties. So, bringing to the stage today for our next panel, which is a Q&A on being a woman in esports, please welcome Head of Community at the National University Esports League and Abbigale Reynolds. We've got founder at Dota Valkyries, Ruby Boulter. Kylie Kendrick, Tech Specialist and Esports Lead at Durham University, who I believe was the person who asked an excellent question this morning. And please welcome our host for this session, Suzanne White, freelance caster and host. And this session has been organised by the British Esports Association. So please welcome them all to the stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Susie, and I am here to present this panel, taking over from the lovely Elle. Thank you very much. Okay, so my role in esports is I am a caster and a host for the Overwatch British Esports Student Championships. And yeah, it's a great job to be in esports, but we've got a lot more people here who are way more in-depth for esports than I am. So yeah, let me just tell you a little bit about why we're here today. I'm here on behalf of Women in Esports, which is an initiative set up by the British Esports, and it was created to promote inclusivity, diversity, and just generally a feeling of safety, and through content, compassion, education, and playing a part in creating a safe environment within the esports industry for women and for everyone, really, because it's not just all about women, but we are today. Okay, so let me just introduce you to my panel, guys. If you'd just like to go down the line and introduce all yourselves.
Oh, hello, I'm Elle. Hopefully you've already seen me today. I'm a video games presenter and journalist. I've worked in esports for a very long time. I used to play CSGO, and then since then I host the UK Esports Award. I also wrote and produced and hosted the very first esports television programme in the UK, which was called Daily Download. I've also hosted ESL's World of Esports and HP Omen's Esports Report, things like that. So, and I also worked with Belong Arena as the face of Arena Clash.
Awesome, thank you. Hello everyone, my name's Abby Reynolds. I'm here representing NUEL. We're a collegiate university organisation who are known as the home of UK esports. I started out at a university society, and now I'm full-time in esports as head of community, so I'm really excited. I'm actually new in the role, and it's just lovely to support university at the grassroots level and support the societies that kind of got me to where I am today, so it's kind of giving back and saying thank you.
Thank you. I'm Kylie Kendrick. I'm the technical specialist for Untitled Chapter and also now the esports lead at Durham University. My new role that I lobbied for myself was to try and create a new initiative at Durham to allow esports to become a part of the wider student experience, to allow students to get together, enhance their soft skills, make new connections, that sort of thing. And I'm trying to create a new space for them at Durham to train and play and hopefully host big tournaments that we hope to have at Durham. It's a very exciting time.
Hi everyone, my name's Ruby. I've been working in esports and in Dota 2 for almost 1 year now. Primarily working as a community manager, so I work with talents and players and pretty much everybody, just trying to help them out where I can. But also, I'm the co-founder of Dota Valkyries, which is an organization built to support women in the scene as talent and players, but also at the community to give them a larger voice and allow them to speak up on issues when they feel they're being poorly represented.
Okay, yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much. You see, we've got a very rich depth of esports insight here. So just going down the line, ladies, if you just like to tell me, how did you get into esports?
That's an interesting question. I think, weirdly, the first time I ever played competitively, I played Street Fighter in a school tournament where you had to pay 50p to enter. And I think I always say that I'm very lucky. I grew up in a family with lots of sisters, lots of female cousins, so I was very fortunate that I played games for a lot of my life without any of the toxicity around being a woman in games. And so it meant that whenever there was kind of a competitive, and also I just have like hundreds of cousins, and so everything is basically a tournament. Like if you play together, that's just how it happens. So I think I was very fortunate that I never had any of that trepidation about competing. I assumed I was good. I assumed that I would, be able to. And so, in particular, CSGO was like the love of my life. And so I joined a team and played a little bit like that. And then in terms of esports broadcasting, I also work in games, and generally for the reason there was that I worked at the BBC as a political journalist and asked if I could cover games on the side. and they weren't thrilled about it. They called it an infantile hobby, but they said I could. And then it just meant that as games became more mainstream, as people started looking for presenters in games, I was right there with a show reel. So, and so I was fortunate enough to be able to get into esports presenting, which, you know, I absolutely love.
Lovely. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Kind of a similar journey. I was quite lucky that I grew up with games. So my mum was actually into RTS games. So played a lot of like the Command and Conquer games and things like that. So I've grown up gaming, but I didn't really think about it as a competitive field until I got to university. So I competed in Overwatch with NUEL. We were an absolutely trash team, bombed out. I don't think we won one game, but we had a lot of fun. And around the same time, I absolutely fell in love with the Dota pro scene as well. So I've been following NUEL since the early days. So I've been watching the International every year. And that was kind of like my way in. So once I bombed out with my Overwatch team, I looked at other ways that I could get involved in esports. And that's when I started part-time with NUEL. So I actually applied for a volunteer position as a community activities organizer. I wanted to run LAN events, which I did with my university, which was lots of fun. And I've kind of worked there for a couple of years, and now I'm here as a full-time member of staff. So I've kind of built my way up from being a trash Overwatch team to being here now. So.
My esports journey started when I was around, I was at university, so that's Salcombe 2003, 2004. That was a while ago, yes, showing my age. And that was Counter-Strike 1.6. I was in one of the, I wouldn't say one of the first UK female teams, but certainly one of only the UK first female teams playing Counter-Strike. We played in the ESL, we went to tournaments and LANs around the country. We were all right, we were okay, but obviously never made it pro, so I had to resort to a normal day job, which is no one wants to do. So in order to try and incorporate games into my daily life, I asked to have this esports role incorporated into my actual job at Durham University, which they happily obliged me with. So now I get to do my day job, which I love, and also my esports job, which I love, which is helping the students to realise their esports dreams where I potentially couldn't. So that's how it all started. But now I'm a Valorant player, so I enjoy Valorant, and check out my middle.tv.
I've been playing games for as long as I can remember. All of my friends were boys, and it's all they wanted to do, and I had really nothing else to do with my time. But competitive games, only about 8 years now. And esports always felt really distant at the time. And I know that's quite strange because it was really small back then, but it was always very inaccessible and sort of far away, and I couldn't quite relate. But then I got into Dota, and there was so much work that needed to be done, and there were so many gaps that I could suddenly see between the community and the talent. And you have this huge community, really want to support the talent, and then the talent are so far away, and they can't. I just wanted to bridge that gap, do you know what I mean? And so I just started working in Discord and just whatever platforms I was allowed to sort of break my way in. And then Sir Action Slacks, who some of you might know, gave me my first opportunity to work with him, and then my second, and then my third, and we've worked on so many projects now, it's really exciting. To the point where I now work with, I've worked with NUEL, I've worked with Thompson, and a lot of these really famous players, these like stars of the game, which is really exciting. Doing all of this work, it sort of slowly builds up confidence, because I have no previous skills. I've never worked a job, but it sort of builds up this confidence to the point where you feel like you can do something on your own, because you have been given these opportunities to grow and develop skills. And that's when I saw the opportunity to start Dota Valkyries, which is like my biggest project and my love.
Oh, that's lovely. I can relate with so much of that, being a lifelong gamer, being trash at Overwatch, so I totally get all that. Great examples of how you got into the esports industry, ladies. What sort of advice would you give to any other ladies who are watching and maybe think, I kind of want to get into that, but I don't really know where to start or what to do?
So I think I always start off with just be brave, which sounds so generic and so unhelpful, but genuinely I do think that, esports is esports, and we all know what it's like. We all know the toxicity. We all know there are people who are never going to want you there. But I think that fundamentally, even just in my short lifetime, it's changed so much, and there's so much out there for you if you just take it. And I think for me, so many of my big opportunities in gaming and esports have come because I genuinely just emailed somebody and was like, hey, you should hire me. Or, this would be a really great project. You should do this. And, oh, look, I just happen to be available. And so I think that actually there's a lot out there for the taking, and it's very easy to be put off by that drumbeat of toxicity, and even events like this where you feel like you need to have a special event to make women feel like it'll be, they'll be okay in games, and sometimes it can make you feel like, okay, this is insurmountable, but it isn't. You can do it. We're all here to help you. Look at the work people here are doing to welcome you into this community. So be brave, take that first step, email somebody, promo yourself on Twitter, introduce yourself to somebody, because that first step in a community as small and welcoming as ours actually is, in terms of the organisation side, is huge, and you never know where you'll end up.
I think that absolutely rings true. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
These days, you've got to ask for anything that you want, and shy bands getting out is quite a northern phrase. But I think for me, it's you definitely have to put yourself out there, and you definitely have to have slightly thicker skin. And you had to have thicker skin when I was playing. Nothing's changed at all. You really just have to have thick skin, get on with it. If you know what you want, reach for it. But the great thing is in esports, there's not just pro player jobs. There's loads of other jobs. There's jobs in AV, there's jobs in management, content creators. There's so many other aspects that esports can hold. It's not just about playing the games. Like, females can enter the esports world a different way. And I think it's time that students and graduates know this, rather than just aiming for that top tier that they may never reach, unfortunately, because it is quite a niche, tiered skill level.
Yeah, I think there's sort of two ways to get in, right? It's like the people that really want to work in esports and they love it, but when you ask them what they want to do, the answer is always, I don't know, it's like that. And for those people, I would always say, like, just start offering to help. Like you said, it's just everyone in the scene is trying to do projects, right? And they're trying to start things, and they're trying to, like, help the scene grow or whatever. And I can promise you, unless it's done by a franchise league or it's done by a huge organization, they need more help than they're getting. And you can do that, and that's probably it's an amazing way to make connections and to network with people. Is if you're helping them, they're going to recommend you to other people because they know how good you are. Yeah, I think that's a really good way. And then the other one is, if you already have skills, just go on Hitmarker. Just get a normal job. Much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Big plug for Hitmarker there. It's got loads of jobs on there. You can definitely check out. Okay. So you were mentioned there's a lot of behind-the-scenes jobs. It's not all about being the pro player, on the main street there. But one thing a lot of people won't realise is how many women are actually working within esports. So there are loads, especially behind the scenes. So why do you think representation within esports for women is so crucial to aspire more women to get into it? Abby?
I think my the memory that comes to mind whenever anyone says the word representation was actually at one of the first welcome events that I did with my society. So I was president of the Video Game Society at my university, and we've hired out this huge pub in the Students' Union, and we've invited everyone down. Are you interested in esports? Are you interested in gaming? Come say hi. And there's me and another woman on the committee, and this girl just sprints towards us and shouts, "Oh my God, there are girls here." And that sticks with me, because when you're at that age where you're 18, you're in a new environment, you're a little bit nervous, if you can see someone that you have something in common with, then that can be the thing that breaks the barrier down for you. And I know that that's in a university space, but I think you can apply that to everything. If you look at a stage production and all the panelists are male, if there's no one on the analyst team who's a woman, you don't see yourself there because there's no one there to kind of mirror you and for you to put yourself in their shoes. So I think really the change needs to come in events like this, but also at huge events like Worlds and like the International, where you watch this and you go, there's a woman there, that could be me. And I think that's something that could be really inspiring for not only just young players, but also just women in general who are interested in gaming but don't see themselves there. If you ask a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up, I don't think a lot of women would look at the esports industry as something to aspire to, and that is why you need the representation there. So.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think one of the difficulties is, I think that when people don't see themselves there, and particularly in our industry, they hear the worst things and then they believe them. So they think women aren't there because they aren't good. They think women aren't there because they don't know how to cast. They think women aren't there, you know, for all the reasons that are this drumbeat underneath esports. And so then when you don't see the women there, it kind of works to hammer that home. And so people are at home thinking, well, maybe if I'm not very good, I can't join in. And by the way, you can be trash. Like, I'm joining the trash Overwatch team right here, like the worst diva in the world. And you can go ahead and work for Overwatch. I did. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to be good at games. And, you know, I think that this is the problem, is that it's that double whammy of you don't see any women there, you hear all the negative things about them, and it just reinforces it and makes you think, well, that must be true. And it makes also, you know, young men think that it's true. And that's part of the problem, that it's this self-perpetuating cycle. And so I do think that, you know, like you said, just that wonderful moment of having somebody just think, oh my God, I am welcome here. This is a space for me. This is somewhere I belong. Is just so rewarding. And it seems like such a simple thing to say, just stick a woman up there. But it genuinely makes a huge amount of difference.
Mm-hmm. And even more than that, it's like, esports is a volatile place. It is scary, and like you said, you need to be brave, you need to have thick skin, because you're going to jump into a pile of needles and just hope you survive. But I think I got quite lucky, because I came in through the community first. So what I managed to do is meet all of the women. And I met all of the women working in Dota, that, well, a lot of them. And they're amazing, and they work so hard. And when I said, this is something I want to do, I received so much support and so much advice. And like, I don't know that I would have been able to take the leap and take that risk if I hadn't gotten as much support and help as I did. And that's great, right? But then you look at it and you say, how many women didn't meet these people? How many women are in the same position where they can't take that risk unless they meet these people, and they never did? And so they never were able to take that risk, and they had to just sort of shut down that idea, which is really sad. So we definitely need to do more, I think. And it's great that Valve are hiring women at TI, but I do think there is more to be done, and there is more, like the people that are working so hard to make this game, all of these games successful, they need to be celebrated, they need to be platformed, and just, it can't just be us. It needs to be more than just us that are doing it, I think. And we need to hold people accountable when they don't.
I think it's also got to start from a younger age as well, educating the kids that jobs aren't defined by your gender at all. My son, he's 5 years old, comes up to me and goes, "You can't play games, Mummy. Daddy plays games." I'm like, "Dad, I outfragged your dad when we first met. Like, it's not a thing anymore." He just doesn't understand. He thinks pink is for girls and boys for blue, and that's it. And I haven't taught him that. I don't think the school has taught him that. So where has that come from? It's sort of inherently built into their system somehow, and we need to get that out. So allows anyone who's anyone to go for any job they want.
I think as well, for me, one of the things is that this idea of who is and isn't a gamer, isn't it? Is that, I spoke to a producer the other day for a show, and she was booking me to come and talk about games. And she said, "Oh, I don't really know about games. I'm not really a gamer. I've got PlayStation, but I just play a couple of times a week." And I was like, "Gamer! Ding, ding, ding!" Like, that's what a gamer is, and that's part of the problem, is that when you genuinely don't see a variety of women who play games and are involved in esports, you have no idea what it looks like. And so what you see is a pro esports player who's like 19 hours a day, or not, if the performance coaches are still here, and you think, well, I'm not that, so it's not for me. I'm not serious enough. I don't care about it enough to get involved. And actually, you could play once a month as long as you love games and you care about games. Then you're a gamer, and this is a community for you as well. And that's why we need to see a variety of women who game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for everyone, isn't it? It's not just. It is. I mean, it's an outdated stereotype that it is, just a boy's toy, if you will. But yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about representation, but what about the competitive side of esports? I think it was there's no women in the top 300 earners in competitive esports. So why do you think that is? Why do you think we're not really seeing women on the competitive side?
I think obviously the toxicity is a huge part of that. If I think about what it was like. It was something we talked about earlier in the day, but what it was like to play CODs years ago, or now, what it's like to play CSGO, what it's like, when I look at games like Overwatch or Rainbow Six, who are really working hard on combating toxicity, and they're still just like cesspits, whether in-game or in community. And if you're a woman, you're not going to spend, who's subjecting themselves to hours and hours and hours of that? And like I said, there's a general perception issue around women thinking that they're good at games and believing that they're good at games, and what that looks like for a woman versus a man. I've never met a man who doesn't think he's good at games until you show them otherwise. And so, I think that, and then also we just have a huge problem with putting women in a tokenistic way. We've seen teams do really badly that came in and were just women that they picked rather than women who were good at games, and then it creates a perception that we're not good at games. And so I think it's until this space feels safe enough for people to dedicate their lives to what is essentially their sport, we're not going to see women progress, because they don't have the support, they don't have the safe space, they don't have, worlds which welcome them and lift them up and say, you'll be great at this, you'll be a rock star at this game the way that we do to men. And until that happens, well, women aren't going to be able to spend the time that it takes to become world-class esports players.
It was essentially one choice sort of made when games were first coming out to market them to boys and men. And it sort of spiraled from there to now, decades later, misogynistic attitudes and beliefs have just become normalized, like step by step by step. And we've reached this point where now women are just being gatekept so easily. Like, it's not hard to gatekeep a woman from esports or gaming entirely. And it's just awful. But I do think we're not that far away. We might not be in the top 100 earners or anything like that for the near future, but I do think that having women at the top level of play, I mean, you already see teams like Cloud9 White, they aren't satisfied being the best of what they do right now. Like, they want to compete against the men. They want to be the best everywhere. And it's easier in Valorant because it's new. It's quite malleable still. There's a lot of COD people coming over and like from these old scenes and bringing their toxicity, but it's still quite fresh. Whereas games like Dota or League of Legends or CSGO especially, attitudes are so ingrained. It's like a giant tree that's, and in the first few rings, that's where the toxicity is. So we've got to really work to get to it.
I mean, things are changing slowly for the better. The Valorant have the game changers now. They have for the EMEA. And they've also said that whilst they have female-only teams, they do intend to have co-ed teams further down the line with a minimum of 3 female players, which is great. I've always been an advocate for mixed teams because, again, gender does not affect your skill. And I don't see why we should be separating ourselves in a competitive environment. Female teams are great for encouraging players to play together. It's a safe environment. There shouldn't be as much toxicity as there would with boys, but you never know. But it's a great start. And back in the day, when I was on a female team, we were seen as that talking team. We were seen as, oh, look at them 4 kings, just a female team. It's attention grabbing. It's all this. But we could play, but we couldn't play as well as the boys because we weren't given that opportunity to get there in the first place.
I kind of see it as a two-way of approach, because I think we've touched on it a little bit here, in that you do need to start at a young age so that women do feel like they can go into the gaming scene and compete and put the time in and take part. But you also need the community change in it and the safe space, because I think we've seen in the news more recently that change is coming from the top, in that Blizzard has been like the biggest headline recently. Is like you need to put people in these positions that are going to respect women in the company and raise them up and give them the opportunities and give them the promotions. And unfortunately, at the minute, it's a very male-dominated industry. Another headline that comes to mind was whichever Assassin's Creed it was, where they wanted to do a woman character, and one of the CEOs said, well, women don't sell, we need to have a woman and a man. And it's changes like that trickle down into the community, because you see all the outrage on social media from the community saying like, oh, this isn't historically correct in a Battlefield game to be able to play a woman. And it comes from both sides. You need the community change where, not only are women in the community, but also men standing up to their toxic mates and saying that's not okay. But you also need this change from the top, because if the people at the top are saying women don't sell, women aren't in our space, then the community are going to believe that and going to run with it. So, we need change up here, but we also need communities like the Valkyries, where women can feel safe and kind of get a foot in the door a little bit and find a space for themselves, and that will organically then grow into the wider scene. But if the top doesn't change, then I don't think you're going to see a big enough impact for the people who are really like down here doing the work. Unfortunately, it's kind of like, I don't think we are far off, I do agree, but there is still battles to be had, and you just need to look at the news to see what those battles are. So yeah, two-way approach.
I think it's a bit like the 4-minute mile. Like when we do it, then it will be, everyone's going to be doing it. But it's just until that point, it's really hard. Mm-hmm. One of the first things that I wanted to do, I know the Dota community very well, I would say. I know how difficult it is to bring change, and especially positive change, to that space. I wanted to get a female pro before anything. I wanted to just, and obviously it didn't work out, and it's not actually possible right now with the resources that we have, but if we can change things from the top, we don't have to wait for the community to change. If we can change things without having to ask for their help to change things or change their attitudes, like, we don't need them to be better people if we just get a woman up there and then they have no choice about it, because she's just that good. I think if there is something that we can do to speed up the process of, because it'll be a few years, right? But if we can speed that up, like, I think that we should do whatever we can to make that happen. And I had an idea, a very, very vague, hypothetical idea of just like, there is so much time wasted when you're learning as an esports, as a competitive player in anything, really. And which is why you have coaching, which is why you have like teachers to help you focus what you're developing. But if we can have let's just say like a year-long league, 4 tournaments, female-only tournaments. Winning team from that tournament qualifies to a mixed gender tournament with a real prize pool. So then you have the safe environment, then you get them to qualify and they get real experience. And that happens over an entire year. Then we hire coaches for the teams and the players and performance coaches, so that when they do reach this point where suddenly narratives are being made about them within the community, we can sort of protect them from that, but also control that ourselves and promote them in a way that is like, suddenly people know them as players, not as, the first woman or, one of many women to play. I think that could be really good.
Quick trademark that.
Very expensive.
I think that's all we really want, just be treated as equals, isn't it? At the end of the day, you're not a woman, you're just a player. Gamer at the end of the day. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for all the insight today, everybody. I'd just like to quickly go down the line if everyone wants to just let everyone know how they can find you on social media.
I'm at Elle Osili-Wood pretty much everywhere, and elleosili-wood.com.
Yep. I'm at Sissy Rabbit pretty much everywhere. Or if you want to follow the NUEL, it's at the NUEL.
I'm at _Kylie Kendrick, pretty much everywhere, or Leandra, if you see me online.
I can't pronounce my tag. If you just follow Dota Valkyries, I think that would be great, really.
Right. Thank you very much, everybody, for your insight tonight. It's been absolutely amazing. And if you want to follow Women in Esport on Twitter, it's womenin_esports. And you can also follow the Discord server, and don't forget to check out British Esports as well for all the information, which will be retweeted there. So thank you all for coming out today, and thank you, ladies, once again.
Thank you.